Howdy, and welcome to the Confidence Through Health podcast, episode 164, where I talk with Angela Coleman, who is the author of The Art of Chilling Out for Women. And we talk about the need for chilling out, basically, and why it's important to add that piece of like calming yourself, not just necessarily in the heated moment, but having a routine, ritual time of relaxation, of rest, of recentering, of resetting for your body, for your mind, and your spirit. We talk into all those things and why it's important to learn that at an early age for your overall health, how it helps with stress levels, how it helps with fight or flight response, how it helps with your cells and your overall health in your body, in your relationships, in your community. And it's such a big piece of your overall life that it's a huge piece of life that we need to learn how to do, and how it's super important for women, because while it's also important for men, but women tend to take on a lot of responsibilities with kids, work, family life, with aging adults, and there's a lot of time that women do not take the time for themselves. And we talk about how it's not selfish to do that, how it's perfectly okay to do that, and to use nature to help you reset, because you're going to be better off for everybody in your life, and for you and for everybody else in your life. And it's a great conversation. She brings a lot of great tips in her book. There are over 100 tips for how to chill out and be able to begin that reset, and how to incorporate that into a part of your life. So I think you're going to enjoy it. You're going to get a lot from this episode, because it hits for everybody, but especially for women. So thank you, Angela, for being a guest on the Confidence Through Health podcast.
Thank you, Jerry, so much for having me. I appreciate it.
And so one of the things I wanted to talk about and have you on is even though this is a podcast for both men and women, but women struggle with so many things. And I think it's a lot of just our culture when it comes to comparison to other people and what they look at in celebrities and things like that. And that stress can build, right? And so you wrote a book called The Art of Chilling Out for Women. And so why was that book necessary?
Well, I wish I had it when I was younger.
Yeah.
Because I actually think that it's necessary for us to learn the art of chilling out as soon as possible.
Yeah.
And ideally, it's something that we're taught from a young age, just like we're taught to do other things to care for ourselves, like brushing our teeth, right. Or tying our shoe, yeah, or taking a shower, right. Really listening to your body, responding to its need for care in a preventative way, right. and not allowing stress and distress, which could be a normal discourse during the day. It's normal to maybe have some ups and downs and have some mood swings and be affected by people and events and things that happen to us. That's normal.
Yeah.
But what isn't, what I think healthy is constantly holding on to that and having the cumulative effect of being off balance and encouraging disease by having lower immune system functioning, by having fight or flight responses to everything and everybody all the time. So technology tends to exacerbate that. Women's socialization and roles still in society that we're still talking about in 2023 is part of the stress factors, the expectations for us to be on and ready and caregiving to our children, to our spouses, our partners, and our parents, especially aging parents.
Right.
And to have gone through that process at a time during the pandemic when a lot of the resources in place were shut down, put a lot of extra burden on women in particular. And so there's a way we can live a quality life and have what we want and do what we need to do and still be there for ourselves and other people. And it's through the natural cycle of activity and inactivity.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Being productive and then having time for restoration and rest.
Right.
And so that's why I call it the art of chilling out for women, because it's something that a lot of people have to learn. And when you learn it, you can master it. And once you master it, I think you can have that peace.
Yeah.
And in addition to that space that you really need, it's necessary for everyone. It's necessary for men and women. It's necessary for children, to have time out.
Yeah. And so you mentioned something I think it's really good, is and I think it's in so many other aspects of life as well, but it's not just I'm going to be great at it the first time. Mm-hmm. Right. Like it is an art. And it's like, in one of the things that I automatically think about when it comes to that is like meditation. It's like so many people think, okay, well, I'm going to start meditating today. And so I'm going to sit down for 15 minutes and meditate. And it's like almost impossible to do that the first time.
Exactly. It's learning something new.
Yeah.
It's change, which takes an adaptation period and acceptance. And it's also learning a healthy habit. So it's like also, okay, well, what do I do and how do I do it? And then how do I incorporate that into my daily routine where it becomes a habit to the point where I don't have to think about it as much. It's automatic.
Right. It's just an autopilot thing. Mm-hmm. And so it as much as we're in a society where it's like, be productive, be productive, be productive. And like you said, you've got so many things going on because you've got, especially if you're in the age range where you've got kids, but you've also got parents that are aging. And so you're being torn in all different directions. It's super important to have those moments of, no, I have to take care of me because it's healthy. It's healthy for me to stop the productivity for a little bit.
Exactly. And a lot of us are driven by our passion to succeed, whether it's work that we do or in our communities of being of service to other people, in our relationships. And that drive to succeed is wonderful. But in order to be able to continue to do that regularly, we need to also take care of ourselves and give time and space to ourselves. That same love and care and passion that we have for these projects and other people in our work environment and things like that, we also need to direct that inward.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it's more than just like, okay, I need to find time to sleep because my body needs to repair. Like this is doing things intentionally while you're awake to also chill out.
Absolutely. Well, and an example of doing something intentionally while you're awake, that the art of chilling out is planning to sleep a certain number of hours. Right. Saying I'm going to commit to sleeping X number of hours because I know that that's what my body needs in order to restore itself, at the cellular level, at the psychological level. So it's all holistic. It's all connected. And so it's really kind of a mind, body, spirit experience that I detail. So the art of chilling out for women is divided into those different sections to make it easier for people to relate to how they work individually than how they just so much intersect,
Right. And they do. And it's very much, and it's a balance you have to keep, right? Because like you can be super healthy on your body side and like do your workouts and nutrition plan. But if you're not taking those, other pieces and taking care of your mind and the stress level that you got and taking care of your spirit, like you won't be balanced. Right. And so you're still going to feel, even though you may like look healthy on the outside, right? Because you're doing all the things physically, but internally you're probably struggling.
Exactly. You're a bit lopsided, right? If your body heavy or your mind heavy, like some people like me tend to be really heavy in their logic, right?
Right.
So I can logically tell you why I'm doing something or not doing something.
Right.
And I might be ignoring my body's symptoms. My body's telling me I need rest. My body is telling me I'm stressed, or it doesn't like this environment, or there's an unease there. But we can talk ourselves out of those things with our mind.
Right.
And just like our spirits, at the soul level, how are we connecting to ourselves? If we're able to hear our soul voices, if we're able to connect to spirit, then spirit's going to help us. Spirit will guide us, that gut intuition as to what we're supposed to be doing. But we have to cancel out a lot of the noise first and tune in to spirit in order to really hear what it's saying.
Right. So is that one of the reasons why, like, you may be, so focused and like driven on a certain thing, and you're just going, and then all of a sudden there's a mistake that happens, and you go, "Oh, I knew I shouldn't have done that," because you were like,
that could be part of it,
right?
Right. You're just tunnel vision focused, right? Or mind can convince you that you're so focused on a project that your body literally gives out.
Right.
And now you can't be there for whatever it was you were trying to do because your body just said enough is enough.
Right.
And you're forced to rest, through a medical event or, an illness.
Right.
And that's your body's way of saying, well, you burnt out. You did too much. Right. But we want to not have to respond and get to that point. We absolutely want to prevent that because it is preventable. It's absolutely preventable.
Right. And so how could we, like, what are a couple of tips that women can take and go, okay, I know I either am close to burning out or I go through that cycle, right, where I burn out and then I get that forced time of rest, but then I get right back on the train and just go right at it again until I hit that spot again. Like, what are a couple of tips that women can look at and go, like, okay, I think I'm hitting that direction. I need to do this to chill out for a little bit. Okay.
Well, in the art of chilling out for women, I have what I call holistic prescriptions. Okay. So like if you go to the doctor and you say, I'm doing this thing and I don't know why I'm doing it, or you go to the psychologist or your therapist and you say, I'm doing this thing, I don't know why I'm doing it. You can come and approach the book the same way. Okay. And with the holistic prescriptions, a lot of what I am prescribing is connection with nature, of how we can use Mother Nature. So that's herbs, using aromatherapy, using feng shui, using gemstones. But also I have a call to action that is a specific behavioral change that we can implement and institute, right away in our lives. And also, this is 100+ ways to do that in the art of chilling out for women. I have affirmations as well. Oh. So I have over 100 affirmations. Yeah. And that talk that we talk to ourselves is key and vital to how we can talk ourselves into things and talk ourselves out of things. Right. And it doesn't matter what somebody else tells you and what somebody else is giving you feedback about, if you're still talking to yourself in a way that's not serving your best interest. Right. And we talk to ourselves more than we talk to anybody else.
Oh yeah. Very true. Very true. And I love the affirmation piece. And that's one of the things that I strive myself, but also in the people that I talk to and that I coach, is that, like, you have to be very careful how you talk to yourself, because when you use words like never, those terms that are just so finite and defining in things, and like, I'm gonna throw my wife under the bus, but she says that sometimes about herself. She's like, well, I'm never going to be that person again. And I'm like, why? Like, if you're in your mid 40s, you got a long life still to live. You could completely change who you are in the time from now till you end your life. And if you give yourself that possibility.
Right. And it's all about perspective. Right. And unfortunately, our perspectives are often limited by our personal histories. Right. So it's like what you've experienced and what you've done, not what you can see. That you can do. Right. So affirmations affirm where you are in the present, and it states it clearly and firmly, and it's a matter of fact. So you're training your mind and your body and your spirit to accept that fact. And it's affirming, so it's helping to increase that positive self-concept and self-esteem and self-love, which is the foundation for self-care.
Right. And so it's not the, like, I know there's some people out there that talk about affirmations, and it's more of the, like, fake it till you make it, right? Type of stuff.
Well, it's
But
affirming.
this is more like,
No, yeah, no,
this is more,
not
this is
fake
who I
it till you
am.
make it. This is who you actually are, right?
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
affirming actually who you are,
Yeah.
and looking at language,
Right.
you know, and how we tend to have internalized how maybe someone said something to us when we were younger, or
Right.
the way that we were raised by our parents, or in our household we did this, or I've come to believe this about myself, you know, instead of something else about myself. So it's asking for some open-mindedness, because really we have to change the way we've been taught, and we have to change some behavior only if it's not serving you anymore. If you're just fine and you're great and you're doing well, you don't have stress, you're not in danger of burnout, you're very healthy, you know, and you're mentally strong and stable, emotionally balanced, 100% of the time, then you don't need to do it. Then you're good. But most of us are not 100% of the time. And most of us who feel a compulsion or a need to be on all the time, you know, no one can be, you know, like a light bulb. Nothing can shine brightly 100% of the time, every day, 24/7, without eventually burning out.
Right.
So there has to be a time when you can turn it off or dim it, and it can restore itself and recharge itself, and then you can turn it on again.
Right.
And so we're changing the expectation to be on all the time. We're changing the expectation that it's okay for you to take time for yourself. It's not a guilty pleasure. You know, it's so beyond like a bubble bath, or, or so beyond just yoga or meditation, which are very helpful for some people.
Right.
Everyone is different, because everyone's healing journeys and paths look different. Everyone's experiences in life are different. We're all wired differently. You know, what motivates us and how we connect to other people and connect to our spirits and with ourselves is different. So the things that I'm suggesting are kind of universal. They're ancient, tried and true, you know, remedies and strategies that have been used for centuries by many different cultures around the world, of how to maintain, you know, holistic health, how to really to reset. And because we often experience a time, at least once in your life, where you've had to reset, right? You've had to restart even and do it all over. You know, so this is saying to how to incorporate that into your daily routine. You know, going outside, being exposed to nature on a regular basis, not that, oh, it's time for me to go outside, I've got to go do it. And that maybe you've gone for a walk once in the last 5 months, you know. Okay, well, if you're not into walking, there are plenty of other things that you can do. Expose yourself to nature, to get your body moving, to connect to what's around you. Because I think in the whole grand scheme of things, it is about connection, right? If you're feeling isolated in a bubble, it's hard to relax. If you're not feeling supported and validated and listened to or heard, it's hard really to chill out. So it is really saying, hey, this is something that you've got to take the first step, at least, to acknowledge, oh, this is good for me. And to not feel bad about doing something that's good for you. It sounds so strange to say that.
But it's true. A lot of us, we're like, oh, I can't because that's too selfish for me to do that. And I think it's that, especially when I think about a lot of the women that I know that are super busy because they've got kids and a job and, you know, all the things going on in life. And it's like, if they take that moment, you know, and again, with my wife, like I told her many, many times, I'm like, I bought you a massage, you need to go get it done. Oh, I can't this week, and I can't that week, and I can't. And I'm like, no, go do it. Like, you know, because I know it's going to help. Granted, that's one of those like really short-term things. You know, it's not.
No, massage is wonderful.
But it's something it definitely. I know it helps her, and when she goes and comes back, and she's like, "Oh my gosh, that was so much." I'm so glad you forced me to do it. Right.
But see, and that's your love and concern for her that says, I'm going to give this gift to you because I'm giving you a gift of longevity and health and care and balance and love and nurturing. And that's how you're nurturing her.
Yeah.
And at some point, she's got to accept the gift, right? In order to nurture herself and then begin to give herself these gifts throughout the day, not throughout the week or the month or the year, but actually throughout the day to give ourselves these gifts.
Because that's the only way to prevent it from hitting that peak, right?
Right.
That's like that peak burnout, you have to address it on a continual basis. It's sort of like if you never change the oil in your car,
exactly,
eventually the engine's going to blow up. But if you keep changing the oil on a regular basis, it can last forever.
Right. And your body works like that. Your mind works like that. Spirit needs time to just come back. And spirit tells you in so many ways what you need to do. And it's just a matter of us listening and obeying, what I call obeying your soul voice. It's just a matter of us actually doing what we know we're supposed to do. Yeah.
And doing it soon enough, right? Like not just saying like, oh, I know I need to do that. I'll schedule it for 2 weeks from today because that's when the calendar's open.
Why wait?
Yeah.
And then when it becomes that healthy habit, you're doing it regularly. So it's not even like an extra thing. It's just who you are, how you live. It's lifestyle. Right.
And that's something that I think that we shouldn't be ashamed of, right? It's like those things that who we are, that when we are taking care of ourselves.
Yeah.
We shouldn't. And I think a lot of women, I think more than men, though, they feel shame in taking care of themselves, ahead of other people, ahead of their kids or ahead of their spouse or ahead of their parents.
Well, see, I don't think of it as ahead of. Yeah. I see it as, putting on your oxygen mask first. That's what they always say, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't take care of yourself, you're not going to be there for them to do the things that you want to do for them. So I don't think of it necessarily as like an ordered thing because no one is saying you're first, second, third, fourth. However, it is a switch for many women to start prioritizing themselves. Period.
Yeah.
Just to say, I am important. I'm worthy and deserving of care and time to myself. And what I like to emphasize too is doing nothing is not doing anything bad, but also doing nothing looks different. And I use that in quotes, my air quotes. Doing nothing is actually doing something. You're doing something for your health, for your body. You're soothing your soul. You're connecting to spirit. You are resting. And you could be daydreaming. You could be doing creative visualization. You can be visioning. You can be thinking, or you can just be breathing. And those things are all important. And there's so many things that happen unconsciously in our bodies. We don't have to think about it. And that if we make ourselves more conscious of it, that it will help us. It will help, again, coming to more attuned to what our bodies are feeling and how to help ourselves. To be more healthy.
And so so what I'm hearing is on an individualistic basis, like each person's going to be different, but like sometimes that chilling out can actually be something that's active, like taking a walk in nature. Well, sometimes it's just going to be just sitting down and breathing and turning everything off, like turning all the notifications off for everything and not having the TV on in the background and just being I just need 5 minutes.
Somebody might need to unplug. Another person might need to move. Either way, moving gets your endorphins going. So it's, these are there are many, many, many choices.
Right.
And the key is to find what works for you.
Right.
And sitting down, breathing, someone might say, well, that doesn't sound exciting at all. And that's exactly the point.
Right.
You don't want to get excited. You want
Right.
to be calm. You
Yeah.
want to develop inner peace.
Yeah.
You want to balance your emotional state. So especially if you've had a rough day or you've had a long meeting and you need to literally stretch and go outside and breathe, or if you've heard bad news and we're stressed out, our tendency is to constrict our breathing. So
Right.
those deep breaths are absolutely what you would need to do, but it's the last thing you think of when you're stressed out, because you're not realizing that you're breathing the way that you are breathing. So having certain coping mechanisms and responses, but also just having regular maintenance every day, so that it's not just in response to something big or something traumatic that happens to you, but it's a routine or a ritual that you do every day. And people are scared of the word ritual, which, if you pray in the morning or you meditate in the morning, that's your ritual.
Right.
Or you walk every day on, Thursday mornings, or you have coffee every morning. That's a ritual.
Right.
So it's just something that you practice and do on a regular basis. And it's something that is good for you, helps you, and helps to establish your routine. And it's something also predictable that other people will know about you.
Yeah.
They'll notice it and they'll understand, oh, that's how that person does this. That's how this person takes care of themselves. And they'll respect that.
Yeah. And it's not, it's routine or ritual, but it's not like to the point of, I have to do this or the rest of my day is going to be gone, because it's like different things happen. And so it's like, oh, I missed that this morning. Like you may feel it and go like, oh, I missed it this morning. I needed that. So you can stop then and take your time to do whatever it is, but not so much like, oh, I missed it. Now my day is shot and I can't ever come back.
No, because that flexibility and adaptability is also key to the art of chilling it.
Right.
Being able to understand change as a constant and being able to adapt to change, and then be able to relax. Yeah. Your body, you could literally only start to relax and chill out after a change has occurred, after you have recognized the change, accepted the change, and moved on from the change. If you're still fighting the change, your body is still not adapting, and your mind and your spirit are not adapting. Yeah, they could be rebelling. So I think that's a great point that you brought up, which is you can stay in ritual and be in ritual, but not be stuck in ritual.
Right. Yeah. Don't be so rigid about it. Yeah. Well, and you talked about breathing, and I want to tell you a story that sort of brag on my daughter a little bit. She's 13, and early on in life, she's a little high strung, and so she would get to where her breathing was just really, something would happen and she'd just be really almost to the hyperventilating stage. And so I would say, okay, she'd like, I need to help me, Daddy, help me. And I'm like, just breathe. That's all I want you to do. Just think about breathing, just deep breaths in and out, in and out. And we do that for, 30 seconds or so. And she'd be like, okay. I was like, are you better? Okay, now we can talk about it. Right. And so yesterday she actually had something happen with a friend, and the friend was getting really excited about it, and it was a negative, and so they were getting really worked up and everything. And I was like, okay, well, how did you help them? And she said, I told him he just needs to breathe. And she said, she just walked him through. She goes, I breathed with him, and we just did some deep breathes in and deep breathes out. And I was like, okay. And then what happened? And she goes, he calmed down, and then he realized how he was overblowing the situation. And I was like, oh,
and that's the power of breath, right?
Yeah. And like you mentioned very early on, like it's something that you wish you had early on in life, and so it's like how, like, as we're learning these things now, like, is it just as simple as just teach it to our kids, or is there a special like way to help them understand it so that it becomes practice?
Sure. I mean, that's a great question. I think that the best way to teach young people about something, any type of behavior, is to model that behavior.
Yeah.
So like what you did and how you helped her, she's seen you do things to reset and restore balance, I'm sure, or even as an athlete, I ran track myself, and
oh yeah,
the breath is important,
yes,
right?
Yes,
How you breathe
yep.
is important, and that's for short distance and longer distance. And
yep.
I had to do the 800 as part of the heptathlon, so breath was very important
yes, it is.
in that particular event. And we know that, I think, by modeling behavior, you're showing them more than telling them.
Right.
And so it's more effective that way. Yeah. And when they see you engaging in behaviors that are healthy, they're going to do the same thing. Yeah. So I think that's powerful, but it's also really great. I always learn from my daughter. She's teaching me all the time. She's 24 now.
Yeah.
I'm still learning from her all the time. So I think it's a two-way street. Right. There are times too when she'd be like, well, remember to breathe. She'll put her hand on my shoulder and say, okay, Mama, breathe. Yeah. Because I'm like, okay.
Yeah. Well, and that brings up another point, is that like you can know all the strategies and everything, but still something might happen that just throws you so far over to the other side of stress and anxiety that, you do need somebody else to come alongside you. And so I think and I think that's one of the reasons why women tend to have more women in their lives that they can go and talk to, as opposed to men typically don't have this huge circle of friends that they can go lean on for different things that happen. And I think that's hugely important, to have that community where when you hit that point, you've got somebody else that also practices the same things that you do and can say, okay, wait a minute, you need to chill out, and not like in a bad way,
exactly.
Saying it to you, right?
In a good way. Yeah. Right. So chilling out is and that support system is so key. Absolutely. Yeah. And being able to be honest with yourself and other people. And we're all human. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's like going to be Zen like all the time. You might have had like a really bad day, or somebody might have treated you really badly, or you might have been triggered by something. Right. And then it's good to be able to, remind yourself, all right, this is what I need to do. And I mean, one of the great things about this book for me, with the Art of Chilling Out for Women, I can go back to different chapters of that book that are more applicable at certain times and periods in my life. And I remind myself, I can always go over it again and be like, yes. Right. And so I use it like a reference book like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I've had some readers that tell me they just pick a number, and then that's the number they're going to focus on that for the day. A random number from 1 to 101, because there's 101 ways to learn the art of chilling out for women. But I think that having a reference guide like that is really helpful, and having people who can help reinforce, that type of content and those type of behaviors. Right. Really good, positive coping mechanisms, as opposed to adverse coping mechanisms or unhealthy behaviors or self-destructive behaviors for when you're stressed or when you become off balance.
Right. And so is there, and it sort of in the same aspect of so for those people that are married and or they have a long-term boyfriend, or like for those women, how can the men support them when they because I know sometimes it's my wife's worked up about something, and it's like, okay, wait, do I need to fix the problem, or do I need to just listen and support, or how can we best help?
That's such an awesome question. Thank you for asking that. Yeah. Well, it's funny because I had a friend of mine, he's man, and he was stressed out, and I went to a chapter. I almost used the book like the tarot card. Oh, yeah. I'm looking through it. I'm like, let me think. There's something that's going to help you here. Right. And then I read something. He was like, I just read him an affirmation. Mm-hmm. And he was like, yeah, that's really good. Okay, so when is the next book coming out? The Art of Chilling Out for Women. And I was like, that might be the next one. But I think these things are applicable to men and women. Yeah. And I said that to say also that there are universal things and ways that I think men could benefit from reading The Art of Chilling Out for Women, to understand certain perspectives of workload, of caretaking,
Yeah.
of responsibilities, of triggers and emotional needs. And for example, there's a section about beauty. And there's a section about touch. So those things are just so key and important because we all need those things in our lives. And there's yin and yang. So like part of the touch was increasing the yin, that feminine energy, something that's soft and sensual, appealing to the senses is very important. And so I think that's helpful for men to know. Sometimes that helps to elevate your mood.
Right.
Looking at something beautiful, whether it's artwork or fashion or what have you, or a beautiful cat, my cat just passed by. She's Princess. She's a beauty. Oh, nice. And those are things that stimulate our senses and appreciation for life in general. And being touch deprived is something that deprives you of the sensual nature of who you are and can lead you to a more, a more negative mood. Right. So we're looking at things that elevate mood. And I think that there are things that men can absolutely do in partnership with women to help us all to be healthy, to be healthy together. Yeah. And that includes, especially like there's after each section, I have feng shui recommendations. Yeah. So if you're cohabitating and living with somebody, it's good for roommates and partners, people who are living together, and spouses, everyone who's living, sharing space together, of how you can create a peaceful, healing space and one that encourages and doesn't stifle, just energy, positive energy.
Yeah. Well, and that's a big piece of, I think one of the things that my wife and I did early on in our marriage, we had jobs that we weren't exactly happy with. And so we come home and we would just like, okay, here's your 10 minutes to vent. And then you get, 10 minutes to vent and then back on me, I'm going to vent some more. And it was like 10 o'clock at night. We're still venting about our jobs that we didn't like. And it's like, we weren't connecting and it was just negative energy. Mm-hmm. And so we said, okay, we have to stop this. Like, and so we said after 6 o'clock, no more. Like we can vent all we want until 6 o'clock. Then we can't talk about work anymore. And, it's just us and, what do we want to do? Or we want to chill and watch TV, or we want to go out and do active things or whatever it was. But it was like, no more work. And that made a huge difference in our connection. Mm-hmm. And then looking back at it now, I can tell a total difference in the energy in the house.
Yes. Yeah. Because you're speaking these words of, I don't know, if you had rough experiences at work, then that's what you're speaking about, rough experiences of work at work. And that's leaving an energy imprint in the rooms that you're speaking it, literally. Yeah. And it's in the house. So that's where you're also expected to rest and recover. And that's why I have the feng shui principles, because it's so important. You can incorporate them at work as well, but especially in your home, that's your sanctuary. That's the place of comfort and refuge. That's the place where you want to be able to give and receive love freely and express yourself freely. And it's a place you also want to be kind. Like you want a kind space. You want it to be loving you back in any way possible. Yeah. So, yes, I think that is right on point. And that's one of the reasons too, why I cleanse my house on a regular basis, whether I have guests or not. I cleanse the house because of conversations, because of meetings, or because of media, television or videos or computer stuff or whatever you're doing. You're just cleansing and starting the energy, just clearing the air.
Right. Mm-hmm. And that's a big piece of like, even though you think you're in your house, you don't think of nature, but there's elements of nature around you, right? The oxygen and the other things in the air, and you open the door and you're getting a flow of the outside, and whether you walk outside and bring it back in, there's always energy that's exchanging. And I think that's a great idea of cleansing the area that you're in, whether it's your house, your work, or your car, or whatever you spend a lot of time, because it's true. It's like, it's hard to be positive and have that positive outlook in an area that is pulling you down because the energy's bad.
Or having friends that continually are full of a lot of drama and gossip,
Right.
or talking negatively about other people. And there's a point in time when you have to be like, yo, let's focus on yourself. So what are you doing? What are you about? What are you planning on? And wanting to talk about and experience something brighter, something brighter, and something that's more just positive in general, positive energy. So I have a section called Prioritize the Vibe. The vibe is important.
Oh, yeah.
And speaking of nature, I always encourage connecting the inside to the outside and bringing the outside in with plants, with flowers, with large windows, with artwork that has nature scenes or photographs, just bringing water elements, water fountain, what have you, because those are things that are soothing.
Yeah.
Those are things that are natural, and they do help to cleanse the air.
Right. And that's super important because obviously from like we were talking about from the energy standpoint, but also from the air standpoint, because it's what you're breathing most of the time. And if the air is not clean and you're breathing it and you're getting dirty air, or not optimal, then that's affecting your cells and how they work. And again, going back to the body piece of the body, mind, spirit, and how it's all connected. And it really does show when you sit down and think about it, that it is so much more than just one little thing that you have to change in your life. That one little behavior change may be the first piece. And so do that first one, but don't stop with that. Continue on to all the others that you need to change.
Absolutely. I think that when you do start with one thing, that you're going to recognize immediately the benefit of that one thing is going to be so great. It could be really life altering to the point where I'm going to do some more, I'm going to do some more, and I'm going to do some more. And so once you do the one thing, you've started the journey. You've started it already. So it's like you've opened up. And so you're going to start to attract the resources and the needs and the knowledge and the information and the desire to do more.
Yeah. And you can do that at any point in your life, right? That can be something that you teach your kids to do when they're young, or you can do it when you're 30s or 40s, or you can do it later on in life.
Absolutely. It's never too late. It's never too late. Yeah. It's never too late to start over again, literally the next second, the next minute, the next hour, the next day. It's never too late.
Yeah. Well, Angela, I want to thank you for being a guest, and I want to give you the opportunity to let my listeners know how to connect with you. How can they get the book? How can they, and any of the other books that you've written, but how can they follow you to get more in touch with you?
Oh, sure. Well, they can follow me on Amazon as an Amazon author, and they can look up the book. It's The Art of Chilling Out for Women. It's available at Amazon and Barnes and Nobles and a bunch of other bookstores wherever books are sold. It's an Adams Media, Simon & Schuster publication. So I'm really happy with how they were able to help me bring this out to the public. And they can also go to angeladcoleman.com. And one thing I'm really passionate about is my nonprofit organization, Sisterhood Agenda. We have over 6,000 global partners in 37 countries. And we'd love for everyone to be a part of our global sisterhood. We do a lot of girl power programs and holistic wellness activities, as well as community development with holistic housing. So,
that's awesome. And that's amazing. And I meant to mention that before, and we got onto so many good things. But I think that's it. It's such a great piece because there's so many issues that need to be fixed still, unfortunately, in the balance of men and women in society, and not just in the US, but across the world. There's so many places where it's not where it needs to be. And doing it at a place where I know you're bringing in kids and you're bringing in the younger generation to try and help them understand who they are, right? As women, as young women, and who they can become, and that there really is no ceiling or limit to who or what they can become. And I applaud you for that, because I think that's amazing.
Thank you so much. You get it. So I'm happy. I'm really happy. Yeah.
Well, as a dad of a 13-year-old who has told me before that, she wants to go to Harvard. She wants to go to Juilliard. She wants to, like, all these big plans. Before, she has said she wanted to be the president. Like, she's got big grandiose plans. And I'm like,
good for her.
Hey, let's go for it. Whatever you want to do today, let's try and go for it. And if that changes, that's great too, because, life changes. And, my goal is, like, let's just give you the tools to make sure that what you want to do happens.
That's great. That's awesome.
So,
yeah.
But yeah, Angela, I thank you. And I will put the links to your author page and everything in the show notes so people can connect with you really quickly and easily. And thank you so much for being a guest.
Oh, well, thank you so much for your questions and for having me on the show. And it sounds like you and your daughter have a beautiful relationship. And that's wonderful. I am really heartened that feeds my soul to know there are parents like you out there with our girls.
Trying. She's 13, so we're trying.
Yeah. You're gonna still go through it.
Right. Exactly. I know it's just starting for a few years, but we'll get there.
Yeah, it's gonna be great though.
Yeah.
That's her journey toward womanhood. It's a journey.
Yeah.